Recording is on.
Welcome to DXgov governance discussion for Wednesday, May 19th, 1500 UTC. Today is also my 1-year anniversary on DAO Talk. There's a little cake next to my username. So for other, I don't know if others have experienced that or something to look forward as a nice little present from DAO Talk. But starting with the proposal roundup, there's 4 proposals boosted or pending boosting on mainnet. DXgov Treasury Diversification number 17. This one's to SUSD and USDT. We'd transfer. I think we had done one on Monday for USDC. There's claiming funds for deployment as a reimbursement of an address that had funded a lot of contract deployments for DXgov. And then there is the safe multi-call installation and the open multi-call installation. So the safe multi-call installation is actually slated to pass this evening, I think like 7 or 8 p.m. So that's a really exciting development, which will let us, let DXgov interact with a certain number of, a whitelisted number of smart contracts to be able to do a whole bunch of things. And so this will be, I think, the GP relayer, the swapper liquidity relayer, the swapper farming relayer. I think that might be it. But that's exciting. And then the open multi-call installation allows DXgov to interact with arbitrary smart contracts, but it's a much longer period. And so that just got boosted, I think 2 days ago, and that'll be up for, I think, another 12 days there. And then XDI base, Machina worker payout proposal, Chris Pearson, a contractor payout proposal. There's Fluid Drop, a worker proposal payment. There is the XDXD buyback number 2 funding proposals is 11.13 WETH, and then the corresponding multi-call proposal to actually place the order on Gnosis protocol. And then Cure for Zero's worker payout proposal, Skymine Labs contributor proposal, and then the DXgov community competition for Omic markets batch number 2. So this is a proposal that sets aside $10,000 and 0.5% rep for a competition to source Omen markets, and that's all happens through Alchemy on XDI, and Sky's been leading that, and so that will be passed, I think, on Thursday evening there, and that'll launch that off. I think it's 10 days. The competition runs for 10 days, and it actually does require voting by rep holders to pick the best markets. So that will be some additional voting after that part closes. When does like the competition close, I guess, guys? So there would be like another round of voting for rep holders.
Yeah, on the day that the entry period ends, the voting period kicks off for like 6 days. So it's easier to see the dates on there.
Okay, yeah, I have the link. I should have just done this. Sorry. June 2nd. So that'll be like 10 days. Yeah, June 2nd from there. And then, yeah, just seeing Martin's comment in the chat about Lee. I think that had been, I guess that's a resolution to that.
Likely on that, we'll probably want to do, since the idea is that there's going to be like 10 winning markets, the idea is, as long as, you know, the community is okay with it, like obviously they get their rewards and stuff, but the idea is to take those markets, or at least most of those markets, maybe like make sure they're right language and all that kind of stuff, like refine them. But then the idea is to create markets on Omen based off of those if they don't already exist. And so there might be, depending on how much, like what people think like good funding would be into some of those markets that are discovered, and we can talk about this after we know what the winners are, like how excited people are about them and that kind of thing. We might want to do a kind of an additional funding proposal to get, you know, 40 or 50 grand or whatever to put specifically into those 10 markets. And so ideally we do that proposal in in parallel with the like not wait to ask for that, so we can maybe look at doing a proposal to just get a little bit of additional funding for the winners of those markets, because some of the funds that are in that like are available right now, some is being used in current markets, and there's also some ideas floating around which Omen Squad has been looking at refining, like what they will be, and then would probably share with a wider group, like around a bunch of different flippening markets. So we think flippening is a pretty hot topic. So
yeah, I guess it's been, I mean, it's been a couple months since Omen Squad was received funding. I think it was like January or February. So like, I guess some of that has been replenished and kind of reused, but maybe there's another round of those that's specific to both the competition markets we have and the flippening there.
yeah, there we'll try to give a report on like the state of like what the funds are. I think there's like been a slight bleed, like LPing markets, like some have been successful, most have been average, and some have been a little bit of losses. So like some of that is like you could write off as marketing expense, but it's not like most of the funds that have been given an LP to markets, like most of it is still available. Like it's not like there hasn't been big losses or anything. So a report like I'd probably due for a report on that, and then additional funding for like what we've heard from feedback. I know this is not specific governance, but we've like we need more markets, and we need more interesting markets and things, and that's why some users don't come to Omen, because there's more markets on Polymarket, right? There's more interesting ones there. So we just need more markets in general, I think. And ideally those become user created markets with Omen token and things like that. But for now, I think it's worth a certain amount of money to like push, like just have a better curated experience for Omen. So,
yeah, I think it'd be good to see a proposal on that. Funding those, maybe laying out both the flippening and the Omen competition. It could probably get funded before then.
Yeah.
And then the report you did last time, I thought that was actually pretty interesting too, just from like understanding how Omen liquidity provisioning works and like some of those things, and that data is just interesting, I think, for the community to have too.
Cool.
Somewhat related to that, I didn't get a chance to put a DAO Talk post in, but Sky, if we are doing like that type of request from XDAI, we do need to think about like some of the expenditures that XDAI base is kind of like racking up are they're doing some of the larger ones. I guess when you think about like the Opolis grant from DXDAO, XDXDAO, and then even some of the buyback proposals that we're doing from there. And then if we were funding the Omen Markets competition, that would just be a larger amount. So I think we actually probably need another fund transfer proposal that is really focused on like replenishing XDAI for the Opolis grant investment, which is 100,000 XDAI, the farming campaigns that we want to launch for beta. That's going to take a good chunk of ETH to be able to do that. We're going to hopefully get the DXD from the buyback, but we need some more. We'll need to replenish the ETH in DXDAO that is being used to buy back DXD. And then I guess for like this Omen one, that will be like another one to be able to transfer funds there. And then just like quickly on that, we actually have more USDC than XDAI in XDXDAO now. So if you're doing your worker proposal and you prefer to take USDC, like just for the next couple of weeks, it would probably be easier for you to take USDC if that's your on-ramp, just because we have a bit more of that in there right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of those things you mentioned, like stuff going into Swapper and stuff, or obviously some of those things really you need to have like the funding on XDAI already. There's a couple things, so like we call these like fractal squads or whatever. Like Omen Squad has the ability to just make that request on mainnet and transfer it over into its usage on XDAI itself. So it doesn't need that proposal can actually happen on mainnet. So maybe it's better to do that. And then we marketing comms squad and Keenan and team have been contemplating a marketing comms squad multi-sig, which could have like maybe 50 grand that was ready to deploy like preset things like $5,000 to a hackathon prize or a $3,000 bounty. But like it's ideally there's an allocation that's already set aside in like a marketing multi-sig, and we were talking about should that be on XDAI or on mainnet. And I think so far we think having that on mainnet is actually probably the better place to have it, because it's really just you put that money there, and then like you're going to have one-off sends of a few $1,000s for certain reasons to like, and most people will want that money on mainnet and won't want that on XDAI. So that would also be an ask probably on mainnet. So depending on the expense, we have the ability to do these proposals on mainnet instead of XDAI if it's like funding a certain chunk for something.
Yeah, and some of it's just about a rebalancing, right? Because we have a consistent amount of contributor payouts that we're doing in XDAI, so we kind of know how much that's going to be every month. But if there's like one-off expenditures, that's a little bit harder to plan for. And I think like right now we basically have transfer funds to XDAI for operational cost, and then we have transfer funds to Swapper on XDAI, which is kind of like a separate thing, right? That's a separate proposal. That's not. Those are going through different things, and then maybe we do have like another for Omen Squad or something where they're getting more specific funding. But I think in a lot of ways, in terms of difference between mainnet and XDAI, it's probably just mostly about the cost. Like if it's a big expenditure, it's probably just it's fine to do it on mainnet because that's like where the funds are, and that's where we don't have to worry about doing like another rebalancing effort. But if it is like coming on XDAI, then that means we're going to have to work through the proposals that have previously sent funds to XDAI, or like try to work on another one that gets there. So,
yeah,
cool.
Like most at this point, still most like internal, like external parties, like a sponsorship of some event or a hackathon or like whatever, like any of those like side or a bounty of someone making, well, I guess a bounty could be XDAI, but like a lot of those external ones, they're gonna want like if you're gonna pay in crypto, they're gonna want a mainnet payment, not everyone just like an event or something doesn't take XDAI, right? So those chunks would probably be mainnet chunks, yeah.
Moving on, there were some recently passed proposals, two pretty important ones between the last governor discussion. This one, and that was the first DXD buyback order. So this was completed on XDAI through the two separate proposals, the funding proposal, and then the multi-call scheme. I think required 80 DXD that is in the Mesa protocol. I mean, yeah, it's in the Gnosis protocol on XDAI now. As I said before, the second order is boosted and should go through in 3 days. I actually just submitted the first funding proposal for the third buyback this morning, and I didn't get a chance to do the multi-call scheme one, but I'll do that later this afternoon, and then hopefully tomorrow, once the multi-call scheme is installed on mainnet, we can conduct the first DXD buyback on mainnet there. And so that'll be the kind of same process there. Just a reminder that if you did vote on those two majority vote proposals, they will you need to go and redeem your rep to be able to reclaim that there. Cool. And then just a couple other things in the proposal queue / forum post. Didn't know if anyone had any thoughts. So there is the Jordan worker proposal for mid-May to July 31st, and a forum post that he had about working on some KYC AML things. Tammy had replied to that. And then there is the Roy final payment, I think, for the period, which has been there for a bit, and I didn't see it boosted on mainnet. And then Fluid Drop submitted the Treasury diversification number 18 ETH to USDC, and those are not boosted, but proposals there. So I wasn't if anyone had any thoughts, comments on those. Cool. Okay, next is Rep Boost. So continuing, I think this is the eighth month of Rep Boost. Sky started it with the Burning Man ideology, I guess, was like the inspiration. But anyway, this is the seventh one. So this is a good way of just kind of trying to encourage or reward any new community members that should be recognized in terms of, and kind of invite them into DXgov governance. So I did two people that I thought have been kind of helpful the last month or interesting. Luigi Lemon, who's been in the Discord and also coming in Keybase, who's involved in the Honey community, I think has been really kind of fun, I guess, a little bit, but also just like helpful in terms of like showing how we can kind of maybe work with other community members. And then C. Magan or Hen, who's at Gnosis, who I just, the last couple of weeks has been reappearing. He's a longtime DXgov member, has kind of been involved in a lot of different things, but just the last month or so, I think has been more involved. And so I'd be good to see him get more involved further. And so, yeah, those are the two that I had. So if you have any others, shoot them to the forum post. And just a reminder, there is a separate program or additional program, the Discord Rep Boost, which is rewarded quarterly. So we are tracking like kind of most of the general Discord like rep contributions. There's been a lot of really good ones. I think even in like the Omen and Swapper channels, a lot more activity as people are been coming in. So we do catch a little bit with those, and so but definitely open to other community members that have been contributing in different ways or starting to contribute, and then just shoot nominations to the forum post. Rep sync update. This was something I put on the agenda and was hoping to get something done before the governance discussion, but some of the market stuff was delayed that. But this is just, I'm going to write a post today about trying to lay out some steps on how we can get individual contributors to do their rep sync updates. Try to do it once there are 3 months of rep awards to sync, and lay that out with the spreadsheet there that we can do that. But hopefully get that started in the next week or so we can figure out how to get some of those mainnet rep awards, while also working on the long-term way of doing multiple batches of rep awards. Next up is Treasury diversification update. Dave, I don't know if you can speak or you were today, but just as
I do have the ability to speak.
I didn't know. Of course you have.
No. Yeah, I got that. I mean, as you mentioned before already, right? We have 2 already live on Alchemy. Of course, today a very hectic day given the market, but we have 1 going through soon. Well, actually, it still needs a vote. I believe it had 3 days left on it. That was, as you mentioned, to synthetic US dollar and USDT. And then we have another, which I submitted, I believe, on Monday, which was number 18. And this was actually to USDC. And the Ether amount at the time of submitting the proposal was actually slightly higher than what we actually need to fill our USDC amount. It is not anymore. So maybe I jinxed the whole thing by doing that. But the idea was to do the first transaction where we actually, at the point where the funds get transferred to the multi-sig, we look at the current rate. So we make sure we execute the Treasury diversification proposal exactly to the $2 million amount we set. And then the rest of the ETH would just be returned to the Treasury. But as things stand now, that is not the case. And I would be submitting the next one end of this week as well. And actually, one thing somewhat related, I was also exploring the idea of maybe setting up like a Treasury Ethereum wallet. So I think often these trades, they are, even if we have very high gas prices, like let's say $500 or $1,000 to submit a transaction, and when we're trading $1 million, it's still a marginal amount, it's still an acceptable amount, right? So I was wondering if it makes sense to have a treasury wallet, which would be, of course, a risk given that I would probably just hold the private key to this, but just fund it with a very small amount of ETH, so the proposals can continue to be submitted regularly, right? So, but that's also something, of course, I'd post on the forum and ask feedback for. So, for example, deploying refund smart contracts, which was like 1,200 ETH the other day, or submitting a proposal at 1,000 ETH. Even though these get refunded, of course, there's a percentage only that get refunded. And I think the idea is also not to delay stuff, right? So when we had really high ETH prices, I was, of course, also delaying them by myself because I was like, I don't want to pay the 10% out of pocket. So a smart contract wallet with Ether that can be executed by DXgov members. If we can submit proposals like that, anything works, right? But just something I was taking a look at.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess you're saying there'd be a wallet that you could just automate it, and that would just be the proposal submission part of it. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. But the only concern I actually had now when I thought this through is that this wallet would also receive rep, right? Which ideally I guess it could not be claimed or something, but
so real quick, the treasury management operations, which mainly had been like the largest costs have been executing the multi-sig transactions, but obviously there's the funding proposals which happen on Alchemy before you get to the money to the multi-sig to then do the stuff. There already was money allocated and should be more money allocated to all the costs, 100% of the cost of the treasury risk management stuff. So if what Fluid Drop is saying is like we've been missing the 10% of costs that are refunded for the treasury management, like funding proposals, we need to take the money which we allocated for covering all of those costs, which were usually paid out after people like fronted the cost, but you could just give a certain amount of ETH, like a couple ETH, to the people that are making those proposals, and then the people that are executing the multi-sig transactions, right? But those costs were being tracked and were reimbursed, at least for the multi-sig transactions, but we were ignoring the full amount for the Alchemy funding proposals related to those multi-sig transactions. So really, yeah, you could just upfront a bit of gas money to the people that are making those proposals. And if Dave is making most of those proposals, I guess it's the 10%, that needs to be upfronted. But
yeah, and smart, like the multi-sig, the gas governance refund contracts as well. It's like, I don't know, it's obviously not that regular, but just recently, of course, I think submitting a proposal on Alchemy was like $600-700, and it's fine, I can put it up front, but when it's 2 a week, it starts adding up. But also, I know the idea was floated of even adding perhaps a treasury account, so to speak, to the multi-sig, and in that case, the same address could also be used as the final confirmation to the multi-sig, which would carry all the gas costs of the trade, right? If I recall correctly how multi-sigs work. And then that address just wouldn't get any refunds at all, so to speak, right? So when the multi-sig refunds are calculated, this address just wouldn't get refunds because the cost was upfronted, so to speak, right?
I don't think it can be a separate wallet. Like, it has to be one of the people that is doing the execution on the multi-sig. So it is an individual. So you could give them the money ahead of time, or you can reimburse them after the fact.
Sure. No, what I'm saying is, if this treasury, let's say I create a new wallet, right? And this is like the treasury wallet, so to speak. So I only use it to submit proposals, etc. If this address was added to the multi-sig, it could do the last confirmation, right?
Yeah, but then you would be doing the last confirmation every time.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I mean, just more of like the hours of that sometimes get part of the reason the multi-sig is so you can have different people do it, because not everyone's always available at the time, especially to execute.
I didn't want to drive the whole conversation into this, but yeah.
No, I would just say so we already have some reimbursements for the multi-sig expenses. We have the refunds for 90% of governance actions. But I mean, I think a simple solution to this, Dave, a lot of us here have various overhead costs that they incur in their work, and then you could simply request upfront a certain amount of money in your worker proposal, a certain amount of ETH to front these gas costs and stuff. Because obviously the DAO should be enabling people to get their work done, and so I think whatever the simplest thing is to simply include it in your worker proposal.
Yeah, I guess the core principle behind it is that I'm submitting the treasury proposals on behalf of the DAO, right? They're not directly for me. So for my worker proposal, of course, I'm happy to pay all my fees and stuff.
Right. I'm just saying, your worker proposal is for treasury management stuff. Include X amount to front costs, basically enable you to do your job on making proposals. I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, and also include guys which declares that once you're actually not being full-time anymore, that you send out the remaining ETH back to the DXgov, and then we should be good to go.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it's like a human bot, basically. All these things that we want, okay, this is the DAO executing this, whether it's boosting proposals. So anyway. One question on, so we're talking about treasury diversification. So with the open multi-call scheme being installed, and I guess this is probably a question for John, if we were going to interact with Compound, do we need a separate relayer to interact with Compound, right? That we're sending how we do with all the other I guess with Swapper and other ones, where we're sending funds to a relayer, and then the relayer itself is depositing the funds.
Yeah, so the open multi-call can interact with any contract. The problem that we have with the current governance framework is calling it, can't call the approves directly. So something doing the full suite of things with Compound would require a relayer.
And is that would that be complicated, or just?
It wouldn't be a complicated contract to create and implement, right? It would be doing a few simple things, and of course we would still need to get it audited because it would be handling money from the DAO. But yeah, we wouldn't need that, unfortunately, in our current
state. I'm just thinking of the Treasury Authorization V2. We have kind of finishing up on the acquisition part, right? Or I guess we're on the maybe 50, 60, or 56% of the way through. And then to get to the yield part, I guess we will have to build and deploy a relayer.
And we can maybe build one that handles a few of the yield protocols that we would, I'm picturing nothing too crazy here, maybe Compound and Aave or something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Yearn too, just because. So the V2, I think specifically said those three and authorized the use of those three, so it would probably just be limited to those. Cool. Okay. Next, contributor UX check-in. A couple different things. Melanie.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. As we've been discussing over the past few weeks, the search for our next marketing lead continues. We are definitely making progress in our search and have been reviewing a lot of strong candidates. And for those who are interested in the people we have been in communication with, I will link a few candidates in the chat of the people who are moving through the next steps of the interview process right now. And then those are just their LinkedIn pages if you guys wanted to take a look. Also, this week we've made an addition to our Swapper team. Olasander, a developer contracted from ETHWorks, will be joining us and contributing to front-end development with Swapper. Over the past few days, Ed and I have been onboarding him, and I believe today he's already started his first tasks. So if you see him around, definitely give him a welcome. And then Lastly, I want to discuss the contributor compensation structure at DXgov. We're beginning the process of re-examining the compensation structure, everything from reevaluating contributor levels and compensation in DI and DXD. This is a huge task, and I know we've been talking about how adjustments should be made for a while. So please, if this is an initiative you have input or any ideas about, just reach out to me and let me know. In addition, today in our contributor UX meeting, right after this call, we'll be discussing this in more detail. So if you're available to join, we would appreciate your thoughts and input. Hopefully by next week, we'll have some more details around this as well. Yes. About just replying to John's message. Okay, and that's it.
Cool. Thank you. Next up, it's actually similar to some of the discussion about the kind of funding different costs, but Tammy had a request for a subscription, I think it was to Bloomberg Law, to be able to kind of do some research and conduct some information. And I think this kind of brings up some other things about like subscription services in general and how like certain contributors need access to different resources, and how is DXDAO funding and enabling those? So Tammy, do you want to kick it off with what?
Yeah, no, thanks, Chris. So it kind of actually goes hand in hand with Jordan's proposal, though he was introduced through Sky, and he actually has like a lot of great technical skills as far as statistical research. He has this really interesting background kind of in the AML, KYC, blockchain analysis area. And it's kind of like perfect timing for me at least, kind of as things have been moving closer to a good place with Omen Guild, to kind of get into more traditional compliance, legal type tasks that things that I would normally maybe take on as in more of like a attorney position with another company. And usually when I do stuff like this, I tend to have a subscription to a legal service. So usually, if you guys are at all familiar with this, which I don't expect you to be, that's LexisNexis, Westlaw. That's what you would use if you're like a trial attorney, I would say. For transactional attorneys, it's frequently Bloomberg. So I just basically met with a service provider and got a quote. The quote for an annual subscription is just under, it's like $6,950. I can do quarterly payments of it, which comes out to approximately $1,700 for every 3 months of the service. So that could make a lot of sense. And I can either, kind of like Dave was discussing, put it in as a part of my worker proposal, so it can be approved by the DAO on a quarterly basis. Or something else we can do is talk about other subscription services that others might be paying for. I referenced this to Chris earlier today because I wanted to get it on the governance discussion for everyone to kind of give feedback on. But I think we pay for Dune Analytics, Etherscan subscriptions as well. Things like that might be kind of like an overhead cost is something that maybe we could consider. For my specific circumstance, I'm asking for like a rate of return on investment breakdown for why something like this would be so expensive and necessary. The main reason I can say is when you're paying by the hour for outside attorneys, it's somewhere between, for the associate, $350 an hour. They'll bill to like every 6 minutes. For the partner, it will be something like $700 or $800 an hour. So you, of course, have an initial retainer for $5,000, but it always goes way up from there if we do everything outside of our, contributor space when it comes to legal questions. So it just kind of makes me feel better when I'm going online that, I know what I'm reading is like accurate. So that's why I was kind of suggesting it and seeing what people would think about it. And depending on feedback, I would go forward with some sort of request, either through some line item budget, like Chris suggested, kind of similar to Dave's circumstance, or I would also just put it like in my worker proposal on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, I think that these services are necessary for people to do their job, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a general. I think there's kind of two things I'm thinking about here. One, we need to like have a culture where people think if they like need something that will enhance their job, like that DXgov will fund and pay for that because like we can see the value add in that. And so if there are opportunities like that, be on the lookout for them and think that you can get funding. And then secondly, it's probably like there's probably a number. It's maybe like $500 or something or maybe it's $100 or something where like you can just get reimbursed through your worker proposal, right? Versus needing to do a separate proposal for that. I don't know what that like number is. I know we did the Tenderly subscription, which is like a monthly thing, and that's actually with DXgov itself. I think was $500, and we actually did like a separate proposal for that. So I guess there's probably a level there that we're thinking about. I guess the last thing I'd ask Tammy is, for these, it would be good like to always look at corporate discounts or something. Like I guess you would probably be the only one using it for this, but if there are things that would like give access, not necessarily the Bloomberg Law one, but maybe other ones like the Dune one, if we're getting an Etherscan API, like that we can split those costs across a couple people, and then that would presumably be like the line item budget that's going through a separate proposal.
Yeah, and also something else to consider, any possible tax implications. We don't want to burden contributors with paying tax for company expenses. So when we think of giving Dave money for proposals or Tammy for these tools that she will need for her work, would they suffer tax implications?
Yeah, that's a common thing with European contributors. So you're like referring to like VAT, for example, which is something that maybe our US contributors don't have to experience as much. Yeah, so that is a consideration. Unfortunately, we don't have too many ways around that issue currently, just because, we can't bill anything directly to the DAO unless, of course, the, payee was okay with receiving some sort of altcoin, right? So it's a little bit of like a cost incurred upon the DAO. And it's always like, I actually have to put through a proposal for the launching video for Omen. And so I'm going to include in there a VAT cost that wouldn't necessarily be incurred if we were paying it through some sort of legal entity. Just, yeah, good point.
Cool. And I think it was Venki and Dave were thinking about other subscriptions too. So if there's any, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure our marketing lead will probably need quite a few of those as well.
There was like Airtable, and there's certain tools that we've been using kind of for different functions. I mean, GitHub some people end up paying for. So yeah, I think these kinds of things should be part of the overhead expense for the DAO.
I think, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like as another example of what you're saying, if we were going to do, like if there was a $10,000 cost and Chris says, oh, I'll just throw this extra I'll pay this $10,000 and then I'll just add this $10,000 to my next worker proposal. So his proposal becomes $8,000 plus $10,000. Like effectively he's getting Caney Fork is getting paid $18,000 from DXgov for that worker proposal, right? Instead of $8,000. There's gonna be tax implications for Chris to have to handle related to like just throwing extra costs on top of your worker proposals, right? Is that what you were talking about, Nathan, kind of?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's not just VAT, like internal things, but like it's it's like it could become a much bigger thing. Yeah.
Well, I was just, you can also minimize, like you should be writing off costs too on your own, like this is not tax advice, whatever. But like a lot of the costs you can incur if you're having for a company, like you can write these off.
Right, exactly. And that's even for, right. So everyone's a contractor. So you're going to, an American, you're filing the 1099. If you have a company, it's through your LLC, and you should, I don't think like how technical you want to get with it. I don't know if anyone has multiple accounts on their centralized exchange where they move their, money into like their fiat, bank account. But I don't think you need to go that far for something like this. I think it, like Chris said, as long as you like annotate it and, treat the money a certain way, then it should be okay. But yeah, good point still, because you have to deal with the headache of letting your accountant know about it. So.
Dangerously close to getting to boring accounting stuff right on the line. Too close to tax day. Too many nightmares still too fresh.
Okay, yeah, sorry everybody, but thanks for sitting through that. Appreciate it. If you have tax questions, Dave's actually also a great resource. I'm just going to throw him out there under the bus a little bit as well. So there you go.
Yeah. I want better reading of the the Ethereum blockchain for tax software. Okay, cool. Then last up is a DXvote update, and I think we are getting a demo. Augusto? We're showing the dApp. Oh, there it is.
Hola, yes.
Hola.
We're moving from taxis to DXvote. Man, yeah. Okay. What I'm going to show you is what we have deployed on develop branch in DXvote on GitHub. Anyone can use it. And I'm going to show you two proposals. Yes, live from Patagonia, mobile hotspot. So let's hope it's going to be connected. I'm going to show you two proposals, one on Rinkeby and one on Arbitrum. This is the one that we have on Rinkeby. This is on Rinkeby network. I did a lot of changes, and I'm going to prove it even more. For example, now, if you go to the proposal, you are going to see the history of everything that happened in the proposal. The submitted time, the time that is going to be boosted, the finish time that is going to appear, that is going to be ending on the voting machine. So talking about expenses, this is a transfer of 0.666 to ByteMeet for DX Asado here in Patagonia. And this proposal is in Rinkeby. And that's it. Everything that we are seeing now is from Rinkeby network. You can navigate all around the app, see the times of the schemes that we are using, the permissions, the amount of proposals that I had, the active ones, the boosted ones. The navigation, of course, needs to be fixed a bit more. The DXgov funds, the address. So this doesn't need to look nice. This just needs to work and display as much information as possible. Later, we are going to come up with a nice design. I have to still fix a lot of things about how the app is evaluating. You can also filter by proposal names, things. Okay, Augusto.
What about lowercase Augusto?
For example, green, lowercase. I think it's supported.
Yeah, okay. It should just not be case sensitive.
Yeah. So if I type Augusto, it appears here, but if I type, I don't know, Dave, it doesn't. So this is on Rinkeby, and well, you can come here and create a proposal anytime you want. It's using the reputation from mainnet, and all the information that we are seeing here is updating like every 10 seconds, fetching all the new information. It saves it here on the app, and it shows it instantly. If I switch to Arbitrum network, I will have to reload the app, and it's going to search for the proposals in Rinkeby, which here it is. Transfer 0.5 RBF to Augusto. The IPFS description wasn't uploaded. We have a bug here because sometimes the proposal is uploading even if the IPFS description didn't happen. But anyway, here we can see the change. It changed to state 4, that is pre-boosted, and now it's going to boost in 2 hours. If 2 hours passed, for for example, someone came and boost and is still able to be boosted, that is what's going to happen. It's going to boost automatically and it's going to execute the vote. So the pre-boost to boost now happens automatically, or I can just execute. And well, this is what we have right now. This is on Arbitrum, which is very good. And now I'm going to share later with the swapper team the Arbitrum address. There is this one. You can see the total reputation here. That is, I think, the same as Rinkeby. And that's all that we have right now. It's working. I'm working on doing some changes, trying to fix issues and bugs that I'm finding all around the app. But yeah, the next goal is going to add all the encoding of functions that you want to execute on the quick wallet and master wallet scheme. So imagine that you go there, you select an ERC20 token, you select the transfer function and how much you want to transfer, or a contract that you want to interact on the DAO level. For example, swapper, you select the swapper fee setter, you select set fee function, and you propose a new protocol fee or whatever. So anything that we want to use on the scheme, any proposal, any action that we want to execute, you're going to have like selectors where you're going to be able to select through curated and allow accounts and actions to happen. So it's going to be it's going to be very, very hard to mess up and submit a proposal for an action that is not allowed, because we are going to show only allow actions on the UI level.
Awesome.
Well done.
Just thinking about in terms of Arbitrum, probably like the big governance action we'll want to do is farming campaigns on Swapper. Presumably that like will be, I mean, maybe some funding things, and maybe changing the fees. But I imagine there will be lots of different farming campaigns proposals that we'll need to go through.
Awesome. Yes. Well, that we need to check with the swapper team, I guess, with Fede, to know which functions he needs to execute on which contracts. And in fact, that's going to be great to test it out, because we are going to have to allow the DAO to execute this smart contract function, and then we are going to execute it. So it's going to be we are going to do the entire process of allowing a new action to be taken by the DAO.
Sweet.
And yes, if you want to use Arbitrum, you need to add those RPC URL, chain ID, symbol on your MetaMask as a custom RPC provider, and you should be able to see it. Very important, it uses Koban Ether, so you will need Koban Ether in Koban. You will need to pass it to to the Arbitrum testnet on the bridge, then you will be able to use it.
Yeah, super cool, very exciting. Awesome work. And I guess like XDAI would be then DXgov, maybe XDAI after.
And yes, well, the thing here is that I'm waiting for the results of the second audit that we are going to do of the wallet scheme and permission registry. And once that is done, we can deploy everything. We can deploy audited contracts on Arbitrum and XDAI. Though those are the ones that are going to be holding funds. I guess XDAI is going to hold more funds than Arbitrum. But yeah, we have that time constraint there. Till we don't have the audit and the changes done after the second audit, we are not going to have a formal like DXgov address on Arbitrum and XDAI, which means that we are not going to have the ownership that we need to deploy Swapper on Arbitrum, I think.
And Phil is working right now on the farming contracts audit, so I'm hoping he'll be able to do the wallet scheme and permission registry audit next week, and that will be ready to go by the 28th. But I'll talk to him more today.
That, to be clear, we already did an audit. We fixed stuff. Nothing too serious. We find a few bugs, but nothing super critical. And yeah, I feel super confident right now about the contract that we are going to use. But yeah, we need that final assurance from an auditor, and then we will be ready to go.
Awesome. Yeah, Arbitrum getting some hype. Be the next layer twos are coming. So just thinking about with the market, DXgov has kind of been around before this whole cycle happened and will be around after or during this cycle. And like I just think even in terms of things we're doing, strategic moves, like think about like Arbitrum and layer two, like those are things that are not relevant to what's going on like right now. And yeah, I'm excited about those. Too hyped on layer twos. Yeah, they'll call anything a layer two these days. But anyway, any other parting thoughts, comments, concerns? Cool. All right.
Shall we sell our DMG tokens?
I mean, we should definitely look at liquidating them, right? Like, I mean, the project's basically defunct. There was an agreement, initially when they were granted to the DAO, but I think we should definitely take a serious look at.
So there's no secondary market really for DMG tokens anymore. But there is going to be a process to redeem directly from the entity for like X amount of funds. So they're setting up a fund, and you basically take your DMG tokens and you get your claim on the funds, I think. So if anything, that's the only thing to wait for, but there's no information on it and they can't talk about it, but that's what they say they're working on. So I think you'll end up getting some amount of money. It's just a matter of like how much money the fund is, I guess. But you can't really trade them right now. So there's no we can't trade out of it unless you can find an OTC buyer, I guess.
Because Zed was showing that they're like up 350% over the last week, unlike any other token.
Everything else, right? It's like everything else is falling off a cliff for some reason. DMG is.
Chances are people are learning about or have an idea of like what the redemption is going to be, and if the redemption is like $10 million of redemption, then the token is trading at $2 million, then people should buy it, obviously, right?
I think there's always a chance in crypto that it's not based on a rational explanation. Yeah. There's a lot of
always just a small chance.
It's just a chance.
Like, remember 2 weeks ago, dog coins are like everywhere. Like this market is just.
Yeah, and there are in the trading. Just looking at CoinGecko, it looks like it's all on centralized exchanges, so it's a little unclear. Yeah, we should do some digging. Ask the contacts from the project and just try to understand what's going on and how to offload them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to talk about it, which is on their site. But
makes sense.
Yeah, we're coming up on a year of it being in the treasury almost, so it's not even like I don't even feel that.
If it can't be traded away and it's basically a dead project, I mean, like what Nathan's saying here, it could provide them as farming rewards. Might be a
they are a token. Right? It is a token, right? Someone.
There's a value on OKX. Like you can take it to a centralized exchange. The DAO just can't do it, right? Like
yeah.
So
let's give it to charity,
or give it to charity. Yeah, I mean something.
Yeah,
some combination.
You can donate it to Gitcoin, or I don't know. Could be cool.
Zed, I think you should investigate why it's going up.
I mean, we can sell them if we want. We can create a smart contract. We send the tokens there and we say, hey, send, I don't know, this amount of Ether, you get DMG. We can do our own sale.
I just think we're going to be like this low, like we're not going to be able to, if everyone else wants to sell, like we're going to be like the last ones to sell, basically.
Well, I mean, today everybody apparently is buying for some reason, and so I guess like there's nothing really stopping DXgov from putting an order, using the Gnosis protocol relay. You could just put a limit order on Mesa and just sell it.
Yeah, let's just sell it.
I mean, we can sell it and we can buy back DXZ with the Ether. So that would be even better.
Yeah, like
and everyone will.
That will be the third initiative for buying back DXT, right?
I'm fine to put an order in. I just think no one will buy it. I guess I'm like wondering who is the buyer.
I mean, if
that's who's buying it today, right? And that's kind of the question we need to answer.
Yeah, I mean, it could collapse, right? But I mean, if these CoinGecko numbers are correct, like arbitrageurs would buy it, right, and sell it up. Okay.
DMG, DMM. Cool.
What do we need to do to sell it? I mean, I can go and I can create a proposal to sell the DMT and that's it. And then the DXgov will vote.
You have to wait like 7 hours until the multi-call scheme is installed, and then I think you can do it. And
Okay, awesome. Well, if some people here wants to sell it, let's create a proposal and let's see what happens.
Yeah, that makes sense.
43.
The only problem,
I think it's going to be also fun to have like a split decision, like people voting here, yeah, we don't want, we just don't care. So
yeah, Augusto, if you do that, let's check in with Nico about how to form the order, because it would need to be without checking the Oracle price, because there's no on-chain Oracle price. There's typically how we haven't done this before, basically. I think it's possible.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, if there is a question we should say it or not, let's ask the DAO. We create the proposal and the DAO we decide. And eventually, later we are going to decide what we are going to do with those Ether. If they count our revenue, okay, what are we doing with them? Are we sending back to the Cure? Are we using them to buyback? But that's another question.
The proposal could be to directly sell them for DXT potentially, if we get make sure we understand how it works. But yeah.
Cool. We'll be on the lookout. Awesome. That's it. See you, everyone. Have a good day.
Cheers.
Bye. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Adios.